Hello,
Hi,
everyone.
everyone.
Welcome back. Oh, go ahead.
No, my bad. Hi,
I
everyone.
keep
Welcome.
interrupting you. Now
No
you go ahead.
worries. Welcome back to SGDA's student showcase, I believe, for the section C. We're here with Drive Talk from VGDC at UCI. I'm Jason again, the president of SGDA. And Magna, if you could introduce yourself on the team.
Yeah, hello. I'm Megna. I'm the marketing lead, taking over the showcase section today in terms of hosting. And would Team Drive Talk like to introduce themselves?
Sure. I'm Chris. I am one of the co-leads and programmer and designer on the team.
I'm
Hey,
Nancy.
Oh no, go ahead.
I'm Nancy. I'm the producer and 2D artist for this game.
Oh yeah, I'm
Yo,
Dylan.
what's up,
I'm
Taxi
a
Man?
game designer and a narrative designer as well. And then going forward, I'm looking to do more technical design and in-engine stuff.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you guys so much. And let's get started with talking about what Drive Talk is about as Jason plays it.
Hey,
So
do you mind dropping me off
Drive
at
Talk
270
is
Argentale?
a small narrative game. We kind of started it in our capstone class at UC Irvine last year. So it's been, I think, like 7-ish months.
Do you remember where that
development.
is?
You basically play as a taxi driver, going back to
It's okay. Feel free to use the
your
GPS on your
hometown,
dashboard.
after a while because your friend has died. And the whole gameplay is that you kind of like go through the town and pick up passengers, talk with them, get to know
You
a
won't
little
make
bit
it as
more
a
about what
taxi
happened in
driver
your
if you don't know where
absence,
you're
that type
going.
of thing. And then, I mean, I
It's a
should I-
harsh
should I
world
spoil,
out there for you
Nancy?
taxi
I don't know.
drivers.
Well, it's not a spoiler for the full game. It's just
That's true.
Lots of competition, you know?
The twist is that one of the passengers you
Well,
pick
maybe.
up is your dead friend, and so you get to go through like the emotional.
I'm actually not
journey,
too sure
of
myself.
grief and talking with the memory of them. And that type of
Consider
thing.
it
We
a
wanted to
pet theory of
evoke
mine.
A strong emotional response.
It seems true, though, don't you think?
Yeah, as I was playing this for, because I'm also on the judging team, it was really interesting just to go through and like also get
Couldn't
like
tell if it was you
kind of
from
that
back
twist
here.
happen and
That voice.
Yeah.
Tom?
but
I heard
in
you were
terms
back
of,
in
like,
town,
the
but
game
I
itself,
didn't believe it.
Obviously, as you can kind of see on this, or as
You've
the
almost been
viewers
gone
can
for a
see,
full
there's,
year,
like,
you know?
a couple of different art styles happening here. You have this 2D sprite and also this like 3D environment with a car. So how did that come about? As like
So
the
you're a
way
taxi
to
driver now, huh?
sort of have this narrative play out, because it's definitely different from
Honestly,
like the
this job
average
seems to suit
visual novel.
Yeah, I can talk a
you
bit
well.
about that.
Basically,
I'm sorry, I'm Peppa Pig
Actually,
right now.
now that I'm looking
Yeah,
closer,
basically coming into our capstone class, we
this is your old
kind of
car from way
selected our
back then,
core
isn't it?
theme before thinking of the
You
premise of
know,
the game.
I remember
And we
how
had a good
broken it
mix
used to
of
be.
2D and 3D artists, right?
Your
So
AC
we're
was
just
all
kind of looking
rickety
at
and couldn't even keep a
inspirations where we
temperature.
could take, I guess, like the full like skill
Your
set
radio
of
would cut
everyone
in
that
and
we have
out.
and like use it to the maximum potential. So
Your
we
hazard
kind
lights
of
used to turn on
conceptualized this,
randomly.
the original idea was to make like a 2.5
All of your
D
passengers
game,
are gonna have a
similar
preference
to
for that
something
kind of
like
thing, you know?
Paper Mario or like this like web series called Petscop. But eventually we kind of Petscop, yeah, right. And then eventually kind of leaned into
Make sure
this more,
everything
like,
is set to
mostly
maximize their
3D
comfort.
game with just 2D art assets, and we kind of use like a pixel filter. Already kind of
If
played
things
around
start
with that a
breaking,
lot,
you gotta
but
fix
we
it.
decided on a pixel filter to kind of like
Honestly,
make
it's
it
a
a bit more
surprise this
cohesive
piece of
between the
junk still
3D and the
drives.
2D. Yeah, that's kind of like
Don't get me wrong,
came
the
around
paint
with this
job
art style.
really did
There's
wonders.
a lot of like iteration and like playing
It
around with
definitely
it.
feels like a
We
taxi.
have this this sprite called or we made a lot
But
of iterations.
maybe you
based
should
on
have
one
paid
of our
for some
real-life
maintenance
friends. His name
first.
is Leo. And like there's like at least like 16 different iterations
Driving
of him in
around
different
like
art
this,
styles as we were
it's
like
a
going
bit
through this
nostalgic,
process
isn't it?
of figuring out like how
Well,
we wanted everything to
at
look.
least it is to me.
I love that. But cool. Yeah, I definitely get the.
Do you remember when you
having
first
that
got
sort
your
of
license?
pixelated look is really what I feel like ties it back to the 3D environment, since obviously the 3D environment is a lot more
It was like
stylized
seeing a
and
whole
bit
different
more,
side of you.
kind of
I'd never seen you giddy like that
evocative of
before.
more like, I guess,
You'd come to my house every day and
somewhat
drive
low
me
poly
around town for
modeling, but not
hours.
necessarily like a step above that.
I wouldn't know when you'd come. From dusk to dawn, it was really
But
whenever.
yeah, awesome. So in terms of like the narrative itself, I know you mentioned that you wanted to kind
I
of
just
bring
remember
out,
talking about
like,
our lives,
the
our dreams,
you know,
in the future.
an emotional response out of players. So how's
Honestly,
that
you're
been
lucky my
kind of
mom's known you your
going
whole
within
life.
playtesting, and have you been able to sort of reach them?
Otherwise, she would have killed you.
I think
I guess
so.
Oh yeah, no, go ahead, Chris. Go ahead.
Okay. I think so.
She told me you shouldn't
we've
play
gotten
with a
lot
young
of
maiden's
positive
heart
feedback,
like
especially
that.
towards the end. And I think the
I agree
narrative
with her,
was
you know.
another thing that we had to iterate a lot. Our narrative designers, who worked so hard on this, we kind of just like reviewed it, like the
As
dialogue
much as I like
a
to
lot,
tease,
and just
it
sent it in
really
our
is
internal
nice to see
playtesting
you
and
again.
everything. And we took a lot of
town
feedback from
hasn't changed much
playtesters
since
about
you've been gone.
what lines kind of stood out, what
Mackenzie's just
things
that kind of place, I guess.
were kind of seemed like a, how do I word it?
I
Like
can
out of
kind of
place.
understand
They
why you
wouldn't really
left.
say that. And we had a couple of feedback from a couple of people that were like some lines felt as if they were meant to be typed rather than like said,
Well,
because we also have voice acting in the game. We added that pretty recently
Same
in
old
the
hustle and
development
bustle.
timeline.
Leaves a better
So we had
taste
to kind
in
of
your
figure
mouth.
out how to balance the dialogue on screen with the voice acting as well, and their
Familiar slowly
expressions
becomes
and
unfamiliar.
like the dialect and tone of the voice. and
It's a
everything.
strange feeling.
And I think Dylan can probably add more.
Yeah, well, I won't like go too much into it since I know we have other questions. But I have at
Sorry.
least like
Maybe
10
we should talk
like
about
different
this next time.
iterations of just like this one task. The first one.
Plus, my stop is
actually,
coming up soon.
Just like all like on a Google Doc.
Let's do this again sometime. I had a lot of fun.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. Like, I completely understand.
I'm glad that I
There's,
got
like,
to see you
such
again
a
after so long.
weird dichotomy between like what can be like
Hopefully
kind
you
of
feel the
things
same
written
way.
down versus like what is actually said like on a screen or like in a game. There's just like kind of the weird. I guess there's a little bit of a distance between the two, and I don't know why. But awesome. So in terms of like the game's development itself, obviously it's taken a bit of time, like around as you mentioned, 8 months or so. But how has the game changed over time from like when you first started to like now?
Yeah, I can go a bit into
Well,
that.
this is me.
I think one of the major changes that we've seen in this game is, at least back in the day, the game was a lot more focused on the driving mechanic. You wouldn't actually be driving the car
I'll see you
itself,
around.
but things like making turns and stuff like that. It was a
Till
lot more
next time, Dom.
interactive in terms of controlling where you're going, and we also had like different iterations of like you can actually like miss your destination. You'd have to U-turn around, or like certain ideas where it's like a passenger would want to avoid a certain street because like it evokes bad memories of it or something, and you would be able to like navigate around it, take a longer route around, if that makes sense.
Glad I saw you.
To do that.
My legs were starting to hurt.
But we realized that like,
Take me to
or at least
1,000.
like this current
No, 1,100
like
Flower
version
Boulevard.
of the game we have, we've come to like the realization that a lot of that kind of took away from the narrative of the game. One of our main concerns was
I'm
just
actually
trying to
gonna be on
find a
time
good
at this
balance
rate.
between like gameplay and narrative, and we're still working on that. Definitely still at the forefront of our problem.
Everyone's gonna be surprised.
In my opinion. But basically, we kind of steered away from that like
driver.
driving aspect of the game, and more so focused
I know
on this, like
this looks bad.
management simulator-ish kind of like dashboard control.
I just realized
your hazard
don't
lights are kind of
have
turning
my
on
wallet on
randomly, your
me.
AC is like funky,
If you give me a
radio
ride,
cuts in and out
next
kind of
time
thing.
I'll bring enough to pay you back and then
Maybe
some.
more so on
Promise.
the lines of like something like Papers, Please, or like Coffee Talk, where it's just kind of low-stakes interactivity.
Thank you.
I guess Papers, Please is
Here,
kind of
I'll give you my
high
precious
stakes,
hula
but-
girl as collateral. I'll
More
be back
so
again.
where it's like, that kind of like, you're not doing.
You're a lifesaver.
Yeah, I get that.
I can tell
yeah.
you're a good
I
guy
remember
since you let me
reading it
stay.
in your like little description about how that sort of philosophy
town could
kinda
use
came
more
in,
good
which I
people.
think is like, from
Hey,
playing the
driver.
game, it seems to be a
Ever
very
fallen
good
in love?
decision overall. So that way you can like have the player focus on the narrative.
What kind of girl was she?
Yeah, and I think moving forward, we definitely plan to do some design reworks to more fully integrate
Sounds like
the
my girl.
gameplay side of things
I
with
tried
the
to visit her at
narrative.
work, but she won't let me stay long.
Because we
Says I
realized, yeah,
distract
that was
her.
kind of like the whole point is the emotional
I
response
get it. I
that
mean,
we want the player
who
to
wouldn't
get.
be
How do they get
distracted
that
by
is
all
mainly through
this?
dialogue, not necessarily the gameplay. But
bet
we
she's
still
happy
need to
to
make
see
it
me, though.
like a good game, rather than like a visual novel or a movie. You know?
Whenever I close my eyes, I can see her
So
smiling.
yeah, we'll definitely be iterating more.
Yeah, awesome.
She's giving me more chances than I deserve.
Very excited to see that, and I will be keeping up with it. In terms of the
I just don't
game
want to mess this
itself,
one up.
were you guys all like really interested in narrative games overall?
Remember when I first got to talking with her a few months ago?
Find interesting about that particular genre?
You used to work at the diner my uncle runs.
Personally, I've played a decent amount of narrative games, and I always like the first example
My
that comes
uncle's
to mind
an asshole, and
is
one
like
time she
Undertale.
snapped at him.
And
Someone needed to get him off his horse.
Specifically left a very lasting impression on me, and so have other narrative
Tall-
games. And I think that's the
tall
core
horse?
thing that I
Something
find
like that.
fascinating about them is how they can
She
make
would know.
me feel afterwards.
She's
and
smart.
It leaves me like with a lingering feeling of like
Smart
very
and
feelings
strong.
that the game evokes, right?
I could learn a lot from her.
I think that's kind of what we wanted to go for with this, and I think it also fit very nicely
Sorry.
within the capstone
I drank a
requirements
bit
for our
before
class
this.
because it's decently low
Didn't
scope
mean to get
compared
sappy
to
with you.
other games that our small team could have.
I've just been down on my luck recently.
Gotcha.
Drinking helps. Speaking of, do you want some?
Does anyone else want to add anything, or?
Yeah, I guess in terms
Oh,
of
shit,
narrative
what am I
games,
saying?
obviously,
You're
I was
driving.
inspired like by the style.
That could have been
of,
bad.
Like Coffee Talk, Valhalla, those kind
Man.
of games. But I think
Just feels like things need to slow
narrative-wise,
down.
I was actually really.
My
Or
grandpa's
other
age has
narrative
been
games
catching
that
up
I
to him.
took inspiration from was like surprisingly Celeste.
That stubborn old man
Um,
actually lets
It's
me
like a
help him now.
platformer game. It's not really a narrative game, and that's kind of like
We used to
on
get into
the,
these
I guess,
loud
like,
arguments,
back
but
burner, or
it's
like
been
on
real
the
quiet lately.
more not on the front end of the game
Weird.
itself, but it's like
You'd think
it's
I'd
kind
like
of
having
something
peace
that's
in
like
the house,
hidden
but
or like
just reminds me that I
throughout,
won't
kind of
be
like
here
visual
forever.
storytelling. It's not something like in your face, right?
There's never
And
enough
that's
time.
also something we kind of wanted to evoke with this game, where we want players to kind of draw their own conclusion about the story, about how it should make them feel,
Or
and
money.
make their own conclusions.
Could always use more of
about,
that.
like what's actually happening, and not to have everything laid out for them.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Coffee Talk because that was the first thing that I was reminded of when I started playing this game. So definitely see the inspo there.
Yeah.
Nancy, do you want to answer or?
I don't have anything to add. I think.
Oh, okay, awesome.
Yeah.
No worries. All right, cool. I think we're getting close to time, but in terms of future development, I know you guys are mentioning adding a little bit more interactivity. Anything else in particular that you are planning on adding?
You want to take it over, Nancy? I think you know a lot
Yeah,
about
sure.
that.
I think by the end of this, so for a demo, it's pretty feature complete already, but this is, again, just a slice of what we wanted to achieve. So by the end, we want to have 5 hours total of gameplay content. We want to do some design reworks and maybe a few more characters, but that's in the works right now.
Yeah, awesome. We'll be excited to see it. So since we're coming up on time, is there anyone you want to shout out before we end the section?
You guys should come back at 5 p.m. for Chris's other game, Love and Bullets, and I think Showcase Block
Wait,
E.
I'm also on that game. By the
Yes,
way.
Dylan's also on that game.
But yeah, shout out to everyone who's contributed. Our
voice
other
actors.
team that aren't here, our voice actors, our mentors, everybody who's supported us through the journey. We really appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you guys so much for coming out and showing us Drive Talk. It's
Thank you.
a really
Thank
cool
you.
game. Definitely encourage everyone in the chat to play it. It was really, really fun. Or I mean not fun, emotionally devastating, but also but also pretty cool to experience overall. And yeah, so that ends this section of the showcase section, but up next is King Scribble. So keep an eye out in the next 5 minutes or so and we'll be back.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.